Friday. I'm coming to you live from my home office today. My wife and I live in O'Fallon, Missouri, and I wanted to do something different today. I wanted to sort of unpack more about utopia, but really the fundamental reasons on why we've chosen to go in the direction that we're headed in and why it matters to us. And I think that it'll probably relate to something that you're going through in your life as well. And while I'm going to talk more specifically about our services and why we've chosen those specific service lines, there's a deeper meaning if you sort of peek underneath the hood of what I'm saying. And as I unpack this, there's a deeper meaning to why we're doing what we're doing. And I think fundamentally at a human level, it'll relate to every single person that is watching. And so, our work here at Utopia and our company is to empower and help scale legendary nonprofits. And we do that really in three ways. And we have adopted and evolved these services over the course of the past couple of years, notably, really much so during the pandemic, which challenged all of us at a personal level and, on a business level as well. And we really went to our clients and we said, what do you need from us? How can we add so much value right now that it would make a lot of your challenges or your problems go away? And so what they told us was really interesting. And we took all of that information and all of that data and we created our future roadmap as a company. And here are the three service offerings that we currently have at Utopia. And ultimately, this is really why we chose to double down on these three opportunities. And these aren't just relevant for nonprofits. These are relevant for every human being. And I'm going to dive into these a little bit more in more detail. By the way, today is going to be pretty short. I thought, just by being concise and going on for 10 to 15 minutes and then ending it, that I could give you quick hits of value every Friday afternoon. So with that being said, so three different things. Number one, events. Number two, media. And number three, consulting. So let's unpack them. Number one, big E events or little E events. We connect people through the power of community. And that's what everybody wants in life, right? So that's what events aim to do. We want to feel like, as humans, A, we're making a contribution that will precede our existence. And B, we want to feel a part of something larger than ourselves. We want to be a part of a movement and a community that matters. And so as human beings, we're willing to give our time, our energy, our efforts, and our willpower to contribute to those respective communities. And what we're finding at Utopia is so many nonprofits and organizations are stuck in the same formulaic events of the past. If the pandemic taught us anything, it taught us that our opportunity to grow in life is only limited by our ability to embrace uncertainty and to embrace change. So now's the time to change. So big E events are your traditional fundraising galas that have typically been the largest annual fundraisers for many of our nonprofit clients. But what about little E events? Little E events provide an opportunity for you to engage donors and sponsors that you're trying to help attach to those higher significance needs that we just talked about. The feeling of the feeling of being a part of something larger and not just feeling obligated because your boss sponsored a table and, now you have to show up to this thing. Right. And let's dive deeper into that. If you're a part of a corporation and your boss buys a table and says, hey, you have to go to this gala and you're taking up a table or you're taking up two tables, you show up, you meet a variety of people that you don't know, you're talked at for 2 hours, then you're asked for money, you're provided a cold steak dinner, and then you're sent home. And that's not really exciting. So the first thing we have to do when we think about events, big E events and small E events, is rethink the format and how we are structuring your gala. That's number one. Number two, if your gala attendees are not being offered small E events throughout the year, then you're missing a huge opportunity. So let me give you an example. I just recently connected with an organization in Kansas City, and the new director of development has been a longtime client of Utopia, and she invited me to come out to Kansas City And we were talking on the phone about how excited she was and how fulfilled she feels and how much value this new organization is adding into the community and to the world at large and how they're helping people. And I said, well, let me come out there. This is really exciting. I want to learn about it. I want to meet your new executive director, your CEO. And I just want to immerse myself. I'm going to leave my sales cap at home. I'm not there to sell. I'm there to understand. I'm there to witness. I'm there to listen. I'm there to learn. And I'm there to engage and ask questions. Because I think the more curious we can be, the more we could potentially help this organization see something that they didn't see before. And so I did that. And the first thing they did was they walked me around the office and I got to meet all the staff members. And then they told me a little bit about their programs. And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. Tell me more about the programs. And they said, well, we don't want to tell you. We want to show you. And we got in the car together. It was myself, the director of development, and the CEO or executive director. And they drove me through the community and to different homes of clients that were benefiting from the services being offered by this organization. And I was blown away. I got to shake hands with the families. I got to hear their personal stories. And if I went to the fundraising gala the following month as a potential donor, I'd be blown, right? Like, I'm so attached to the mission now that, of course, my $50 that I would have contributed or $100 or $200 would turn into $500 or $1,000 because they attached me to something that made me feel like my contribution mattered because I could see how it was serving the community. So that's an example of a small E event, is a ride along or a volunteer opportunity, volunteer days, tours of your facility, small donor meetup groups. There are just so many opportunities to engage people outside of your large annual events on a smaller, way more intimate level that connect people much more deeply than any of these larger events could ever do. And then once you connect them to your cause, like I said, $0 turns into 100 and 100 can eventually turn into 1,000. But more than anything, you have to be good stewards of people's money and doing what you say you're going to do and helping people understand where the money goes and why their contribution matters. Let me give you another example of a digital small E event. We have a client in Chicago. And this particular client invested in a 3D virtual walkthrough of their facility. They attached this virtual walkthrough on a landing page with a video that our team filmed for their organization. And they had one individual was searching in Chicago about different groups to give back to or nonprofits that she wanted to donate her time and her money. And she landed on this landing page. She clicked the virtual 3D tour and she was intrigued. And so she went deeper and played our video. And she gave $5,000 to the organization on the spot online. $5,000. That's huge. And so here's what I mean by being good stewards of the money. A lot of organizations would just accept the gift and say, wow, that's amazing, and send a little handwritten card. Well, the executive director of this particular organization called this lady. Her name is Bonnie. And he said, hey, Bonnie, I'd love to know why you did this. Can I set up a coffee meeting with you? They set up a coffee. He invited her to come to their upcoming hybrid gala, which our team at Utopia is producing in November in Chicago. And she's attending the event. So now you've converted someone who was a lead online to someone who gave $5,000 and never interacted with your organization on a personal level outside of just being engaged on one of your pages on your website. And now she's attending the event. That's huge. So being a good steward is not just about, offering a big E event or a little E event. It's then following up with people after whatever interaction they have with your organization and taking them to that next level, inviting them to that next level, but really understanding why they contributed or what matters to them. Maybe this is more to unpack on a live stream, but why do they give? Why did they give? Okay, so number one, events, big E events, little E events. Number two is digital media. So a lot of people are throwing around the term earned media, and I'm going to unpack that a little bit. So about 10 to 15 years ago, Arianna Huffington started the Huffington Post, and she started with zero content, and she knew if she wanted to grow it, she's going to have to get some badass writers, right? She needed creatives. So her and her staff went out to these amazing creatives, content writers, and they said, hey, we're going to build a huge platform, and all you have to do is come here and write. And of course, any aspiring and eager content creator or writer knows there are hundreds of other individuals like them. And a platform is amazing. That's how I'm going to grow an audience. So boom, she had an audience, and Ariana Huffington and the Huffington Post blew up as a result because hundreds of writers simply wanted to share their thoughts with an audience that mattered and that listened. And then eventually Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Snapchat said, damn, if Huffington Post can do it, we can too. And that's why when you post something on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram that gets 15,000 likes or comments or shares, you pay them. They don't pay you, but they're benefiting from keeping people on their platform. So if you're getting 15,000 interactions, you would think that you should be waiting on a check, right? Wrong. That's earned media. You're paying them for eyes. Now, the opportunity that exists now in the world is owned media. And this is what we are now doing as an organization, is we are helping to scale legendary nonprofits through owned media and events. So owned media is you're utilizing digital media, just like our nonprofit did in Chicago, videos online, virtual tours of your facility, podcasts or live streams like this, a book launch like what we're doing later on in the year, a podcast and books and Spotify and Apple podcasting. And then you invite people you add value into their lives, and then you invite people into an ecosystem. That is owned media. And then you continue to offer them ways to get involved, ways to volunteer, ways that your organization is doing things that matter. You just continue to add value, and you give them services and products that matter to them. And that's how you create an ecosystem of owned media, where you own your own network of individuals that would tattoo the name of your business on their chest and wear it proudly in public. And so I was gonna say take their shirts off, but we'll keep this PG. So that is why I go live on Friday. I'm learning by doing this, and I'm growing. I'm finding out what works, what doesn't work. So then we can teach other businesses how to do exactly what we're doing by leveraging video, by leveraging audio, by leveraging digital content, by leveraging copyright content. That's number 2, digital media, and more specifically, owned media. Number 3 is consulting. What we do at Utopia is we go inward. We find in helping businesses and specifically nonprofits through events and digital media, when they present a problem like our donors don't give, or our event wasn't well attended, or we didn't raise as much money as we wanted to, we find there's typically something behind the curtain, and we need to pull the curtain back and take a peek behind it to see what's really going on. Thus, we start our question process. Like, how we ask the nonprofit these questions to try and figure out what fundamental problems are going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to or we're not aware of yet. How do we inspire unconditional responsibility for how we show up for our donors, for our clients, for ourselves, for our team members? At a time of widespread scarcity, how do we unlock collective resourcefulness? How do we show our clients that we're doing this, and do they even care? What is our public perception? What do we want our public perception to be? Who are our clients, and why do they matter? What data do we have on our donors? Do we really know who our donors are? Have we profiled them? Do they go to Starbucks? Or do they go to Dunkin'? What channels do they watch on TV? Are they driving a car, or are they riding a bike? Are they on a scooter or a motorcycle? Finding out who your clients are allows you to double down on that network or that audience of individuals, because you know who you're marketing to. You don't have the marketing budget to market to everyone. So figure out and profile your donors or your clients. At a time where we may be captivated by problems, how do we crowdsource actionable solutions for our team, for our community, for our clients, for our prospects, and for our donors? At a time when we doubt humanity, how do we go inward to discover our universal strengths? At a time of isolation and loneliness, how do we create an instant experience of belonging and deep connection among our donors and our clients and our audience and our base? So those are some questions we ask our nonprofit clients, and we find that there's usually something going on behind the scenes that we need to pay attention to. And that's usually not knowing or not having a strong relationship with donors and with sponsors. And through finding that out, we found the way to build relationships with other people is to first start by building a relationship with yourself. And it's to go inward and realize that this is where exponential growth happens, right here. So I want to read this passage in this book that I just finished, and it's The Untethered Soul. It's the best book I've ever read in my life, and this book was recommended to me by Hal Elrod. And one of the things that a handful of people have asked me in the last couple of weeks is, well, what do you do to go inward? Well, it all started with Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning. So if you don't have a meditation practice or a journaling practice or an affirmations practice or a scribing practice where you're writing down what you're grateful for every day, I highly, highly, highly recommend, even if you do those things, go on Amazon and order the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and order The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And here's what Michael Singer says. The bottom line is, you'll never be free of problems until you are free from the part of you that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about this? Ask instead, what part of me is being disturbed by this? If you ask, what should I do about it? You've already fallen into believing that there is really a problem outside of you that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of problems, you must understand why you perceive any particular situation as a problem. If you're feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself from it, just ask, what part of me is jealous and why? That will cause you to look inside yourself and see that there's a part of you that has a problem with jealousy. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. You think that if you change things outside of you, you'll be okay. But nobody has truly ever become okay by changing things outside, because that's always the next problem. Think about that. The next problem is always when you're trying to change things outside. If you're jealous because someone has a nicer car than you or a nicer house than you, you're like, well, once I have that nicer house, then ... Well, once I have that nicer car, then ... But when we get there, are we truly happy? Because we feel that the problem is outside of us as opposed to inside. It's something that we have to do by growing the relationship with ourselves. And once you scale internally, you realize that nothing outside of your happiness inside matters, period. No solution can possibly exist when you're lost in the energy of a problem. You're not alone in there. There are two distinct aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intention, and the other is which you watch. The problem is the part of you is the watch that never shuts up. If you could get rid of that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity inside of you would be the nicest vacation you ever had. And I want to finish here. Your will is stronger than the habit of listening to the voice that says you have problems, that says you're not significant, that says there's nothing that you there's nothing that you can do. That's a lie. There's everything you can do. Your will is supreme over all of this. If you want to free yourself, you must first become conscious enough to understand your predicament. Then commit yourself to the inner work of freedom by building the relationship with yourself. You do this as though your life depended on it, because it does. As it is right now, your life is not your own. It belongs to your inner roommate, which is your psyche. And the psyche is the thing that tells you that you're never going to be enough. You're not validated. You're not significant. You have limiting self-beliefs. You have to take it back. Stand firm on the seat of your witness and release the hold that the habitual mind has on you. This is your life. It's time for you to reclaim it. So I just would say that what really matters is going inward and finding inner peace and scaling your relationship with yourself. Know who you are at the core. And I wrote this down, and I'm reading this piece because I was reflecting on this right before I went live. Realize that your problems are not actually problems, which is the most liberating thing you can possibly do. And then focus on scaling the feeling of belief that you can do anything that you want in your life, so long as you focus your energy on changing your frame of reference on what really matters. And it's not the problems, but the opportunity. And the opportunity only presents itself when we're not lost in the energy of a problem, but rather focused on the privilege of relationships with others, with our families, with our teammates, and most importantly, with ourselves. So remember, your willpower is stronger than your habit of listening to the inner voice that says you can't do something. If you feel like you're challenged or upset or frustrated by your personal or your career growth, or perhaps you feel like you're ready to grow, but you don't have the resources or the support around you to be able to do so to help you make the leap, please reach out to me. I'm here for you, and I care about you. I love you all. Have an amazing weekend. And remember, your inner voice is not you. You are not a problem. You're amazing.